Hi, I'm Rachel Lancaster, and this is the Magnificent Midlife podcast. This is where we celebrate women in midlife and beyond. We challenge the status quo and bash those negative stereotypes about being an older woman. We're not over the hill at 40, 50, 60. We're just getting started. And the world needs us now more than ever. I'll be talking all things midlife, about the issues that matter, and sharing fabulous stories of amazing women doing very cool stuff. Now's our time. My guest today is Lisa Weldon, who has created a very interesting next chapter for herself by walking cities. And when I heard about this, I thought this was just absolutely fascinating and such a great idea. So I wanted to have her on the podcast. So welcome, Lisa. It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
So how about telling us, how on earth did you start doing this walking of cities? What led you to do this? And what was the impetus?
It's a little crazy. About 10 years ago, I signed up for a course at Parsons School of Design in New York. They offer 30-day summer courses in both New York and Paris. And my career had gotten a little stale. I'd been busy raising three children, and the recession had just happened. And both my husband and I both were entrepreneurs, and I needed to get on the stick and reinvent myself because I was used to doing print advertising like newspapers and magazines and television, things like that. And as you know, those things 10 years ago, those things were going out. And being an art director in advertising, I had to learn how to do web design, digital media, social media, and things like that. My clients were disappearing because I had not updated myself. So I signed up for this course and got a little apartment in Manhattan, started taking YouTube tutorials and kind of learning, and opened up a Facebook page and kind of dug into it. And two things happened. They called and said they canceled the class 10 days before I was to leave. And my husband walked in and said, "Our house is going under foreclosure in 4 days." Whew. So,
oh my goodness.
So, I had put on Facebook what I was planning to do in this 30-day course. So I began typing on Facebook that I've had to cancel my class. And one of my Facebook friends says, "Nope, what's plan B?" So, and I never back down from a challenge. So I took a map of Manhattan and I tore it into 20 pieces because I'd already paid for my Airbnb and I couldn't get my money back. So I tore a map of Manhattan into 20 pieces, and I decided to walk one piece per day, come back to the apartment and write about it, and then learn how to put it on Facebook and how to tweet and how to blog and how to, buy Facebook ads and try to get followers and all that, using myself as a client. Well, I had a ball. I loved learning, but the walking part was just amazing. It was, and the stories I found were just amazing. So I had a ball. That 30 days in New York was, before the 30 days was up, I had a client out of Singapore call me and want me to do a social media campaign. So
really?
it was instantly successful. And it was not only a career reinvention, but it was, for me personally, a time to get away and reassess my entire life. I was facing losing my home, my marriage, and my last child leaving the nest. So that 30 days not only saved my career, but it saved my life in a lot of ways.
Wow.
It's a long story, but it was amazing. It was fun.
So then after you'd done your New York walk, you turned it into lots of other walks, didn't you? So how did you start? Where did you move from after New York, and how did you decide where you wanted to go and walk?
Well, after New York, I came back and a friend tempted me with walking Paris. Needless to say, it was a year, a lot of things were changing, moving and getting my kids out and all that. So I basically turned her down. I said, "There's no way I can handle that." And she said, "Well, what if I get the place? Will you go do it with me?" And I said, "Okay, I'll do it." That was on it. Paris was on a dare from a friend. The next trip I took to Istanbul, and I had a cousin getting married in Greece. So I just hopped over to Istanbul. I've been very curious about Istanbul. So I was in the area. So that's why I chose Istanbul. But the funniest story is about walking Shanghai. It was one Monday morning, and my coffee's brewing. I've just gotten up, and I went to my computer to check email, and Air Canada had sent me an email that I could that they were selling tickets to either Beijing or Shanghai for $600 round trip. So I Googled both skylines, and Shanghai skyline was prettier, so I bought the ticket. I didn't tell anybody for 4 months because I was sort of embarrassed about it. Panama, my sister wanted to go to Panama, went to Guatemala through a mission trip. And so it depends, but it's usually where I can get a good airline ticket. And I woke up a couple of weeks ago and bought a ticket to Barcelona because they were super cheap. I hope to go to South Africa, and I'd like to go to St. Petersburg. So I might plan those 2 trips. But a lot of my trips are literally what's on sale this week or what I can, it's spontaneous.
Where does the fancy take you?
Yeah, exactly.
That's wonderful. I really like that. I think we need more spontaneity in our lives, don't we? We need more sense of adventure.
We do, don't we?
Yeah, we can get very stuck, can't we? But you're the epitome of not getting stuck, but taking.
I'm normal. I get stuck a lot. So.
But it's I think it's really interesting because I know there's a quote somewhere, there's a statistic that says that we're something like 40% more creative when we're walking.
Well, I've actually read some research on that. Walking for me, do you know George Winston, the pianist?
No, I don't.
It's beautiful piano music, and I just love it. And I stick the headphones in my ears and walk. And it's like what other people describe as meditation for me. I just get so creative, and my mind's so open when I walk. Even when I walk in like a congested city, like New York, I still just, I don't know, it's just very freeing and almost spiritual for me. So I agree with you. I've seen some research on it, not a lot, but it really is, really is.
And where is home? Where are you usually based?
I'm Atlanta, Georgia.
So
Originally an Air Force brat, so I've lived all over the place, but I've lived here longer than anywhere else.
So New York is a long way for you, isn't it?
It is. I started out, went to Auburn University in Alabama, and from there I went to Birmingham, Alabama, and started my little job in advertising. And when we got to do a really big budget job, we used to be able to go to New York and produce it. The best of the best were on Madison Avenue. So I've always had an aura about New York. It's just when I get off the plane in that city, I just become electric somehow. I guess it's the energy.
It's an amazing place. Yeah, I used to live in New York, so I know it quite well, and I've walked a lot of it too. So I thought that was such a wonderful thing, and I love that idea of taking a neighborhood and walking the neighborhood.
Well, I laugh about, I met a New Yorker last night, and we were talking about my trip, and I said, I bet I know more about Manhattan than you do. Oh, no. I said, have you ever walked the Con Edison power plant? He said, why would I? But it was one of my blocks, and I had to cover them all,
Yeah. Did you do Roosevelt Island?
Oh, yes. And the tram that comes over.
I've not done that. That's
Oh,
the one thing well, there's many things I haven't done, but that's one of the big things I haven't done. Yeah.
oh, it's just wonderful. And I think the last tram comes over at 2 o'clock in the morning. And to come over and see the city with all the lights is just magical. You know, it's where everybody should get engaged.
Oh, really? Right, I'm going to have to put that on my list next time, because I have a friend who lets me stay on the Upper East Side, so it's not very far.
No, it's not.
No, yeah.
But do it at night.
Do it at night. Okay, thank you for that tip. That's a good one. All right. So, what do you do when you first arrive at a destination, when you plan to walk it?
I typically get settled in my Airbnb. I choose to stay in Airbnbs because I like to see the way locals live instead of in a hotel. Get unpacked and go buy food. Try to find the local market, and that's fun in itself. Like when I was in Turkey, their grocery stores are different from ours. Their markets are different from ours. So that's the first thing I do is go find food. And then I just usually just, I take it easy the first day, especially if I'm going to be there for a while. And I get to know my neighborhood. Like when I went to Paris, I was in Le Marais, and I just sort of walked around to see where the bakeries were, where the coffee shops were, the restaurants, the stores, and things like that. So kind of just settle in.
And of all the cities you've walked, what's been your favorite?
Oh, New York will always be my favorite.
Really? Oh.
New York will always be my favorite. I loved getting to know Paris. Loved getting to know Paris and the Parisians. And, so many people stay right there by the river and they don't really get outside. And I tore the map of Paris up as well and walked every arrondissement. So all the different pockets are so different. So that was pretty special. They're all special. Gosh, they're all special. But nothing will ever top New York. It was a time in my life that it was just magical. So,
well, it was a transformational experience for you, it sounds like, wasn't it?
yes,
It was what you needed at the time.
yes, exactly.
It just worked really well. Yeah.
Exactly.
Are you walking alone when you're doing this, or do you walk with a friend, or how does that work?
Some of my shorter trips, I will go with either my sister or a friend, or like on a mission trip or things like that. But I prefer to go alone, which may sound odd, but talking about spontaneity, you can be a lot more spontaneous when you travel alone. I can wake up or early or get going at dawn, or I can sleep a little later. I can walk wherever I want to at any time. I typically walk most of the day, and then I'll come home, have dinner, and then I'll write late into the night. So I wouldn't be very good sharing a hotel room with anybody, because I'll a lot of times write till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh,
you got to write when the time's right. And I also find that when I travel alone, I'm more apt to start conversations with the local people instead of depending on my friend or my sister or somebody that's showing us around. I was painfully shy when I was a child, painfully shy. But I find when I go to other countries, I just kind of just walk right up to somebody or introduce myself to people and sit next to somebody in a park bench and ask the stories. And I get real curious when I go to other cities. How do the kids go to school? How do you get your mail? All these different things. And so most travelers probably wouldn't have patience for all that. But I don't feel responsible for making somebody else happy or comfortable. Or I also probably take a few more risks than most people would feel comfortable doing. When I was in New York, I fell in love with graffiti, and I will go behind buildings and through alleyways looking for graffiti. Most people won't let me do that.
You must come to London and walk Shoreditch. Because
Oh,
Shoreditch is our new up-and-coming arty-farty place.
right, right.
And the graffiti in Shoreditch is amazing. It's really fantastic. It's like whole walls have been painted, you know, big
Mhm.
buildings.
I
Spectacular.
love it. I love it.
But I think it's so interesting what you said about traveling alone. I mean, I've traveled alone. There's a lot to be said about we can be whoever we want to be when we travel
Right,
alone. Nobody
right.
knows our backstory. We can reinvent ourselves, so we can be whoever we decide to be on any particular day. And I often find myself, I take far more risks when I'm abroad than I do at home.
Right,
And I am more outgoing
right.
abroad than I would
I am too.
necessarily be at home.
I am too. Yeah, I really do. People think I'm nuts, but
Oh no.
I just feel so alive when it's wide open and nobody's holding me back. And I don't have to say, like you said, I left my baggage at home, and I don't have to be any certain thing to anybody. And,
Mm.
um, I have a lot of people ask me, next time you walk a city, I want to walk with you. And I feel a little guilt about
It's
saying,
like, no, no,
no,
go away.
no. So a lot of times what I'll do, I'll say, well, come for the first week. I'm going to stay for 2 weeks, or come for the first few days. But really, I don't know that people would enjoy traveling with me because I get in this zone and I work hard. I get up early, I work hard, a lot of physical energy, and then I write half the night and edit and post and
Mm.
everything you do. So anyway, so I don't know that I'd be that much fun. The only thing about traveling alone that I've not gotten used to is eating alone.
Yes.
And I'm trying to get better at it. In New York, I feel a little more comfortable with it because I've been up there now enough to know some of the restaurants and everything. But what I have found when I eat alone is the waiters take care of you like you wouldn't believe. They'll bring over a free glass of wine or a free dessert or come over and talk to you. But it's what do you do with your eyes when you're sitting there alone?
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
have a friend in London who is a blogger, and she writes entire blog on eating alone.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm learning.
One of my favorite bloggers is a lady called Susie Grant of Alternative Aging, and she travels alone quite a lot as well. And it is a real bugbear of hers that when she dines alone,
Right,
um, the wait staff always remove the other setting. So it's like they're announcing to the restaurant that she is alone. Whereas
right.
why can't they just keep the other setting there? They'll say, "Are you expecting anybody?" No. And then they'll clear it. It's like, this is a lone woman sitting here by herself.
I'll often take like a chapter of my manuscript and put it in front of me just so I have somewhere to put my eyes.
Yes.
Which I got to get over that. I got to get over it. That's the only part. That's the only part. I mean, I've been like in Shanghai where it's totally different from everything. And I love being alone. I love
Mm.
being alone.
And I'm sure I should confess I've lived in Shanghai as well.
You did.
Yes. There's always somebody who comes out of the crowd to help. Did you find that when you were
Yes.
walking?
If I ever stopped and looked at my map, because Google, they don't have Google over there. And so if I ever stopped and looked at my map, somebody would stop. Every once in a while it was an Australian or Brit or somebody that could help me in English. I loved Shanghai. Loved it.
Mm. It's an
When were you
amazing
there?
city, isn't it? Oh, a long, long time ago.
Yeah, yeah.
In 1984.
Whoa.
That's when I was there. Yeah, a very long time ago. I've been back since, but that was when I was living there. So it's
Yeah.
very, very different now. The skyline that I know, because I read a bit about your trip to Shanghai, that the skyline that you describe as being so interesting didn't exist when I lived there. It wasn't there at
Oh,
all, because that whole area on the east side of the river
right,
was water. Well, was swampland, really. It was like paddy fields, and they
right.
reclaimed it from the sea and the
Yeah.
river, and then built on it. So that whole Pudong area
Right, and it's
just didn't
all the
exist.
financial district, and it's all at night, the buildings light up, and they have light shows on these buildings. It's
Yeah,
phenomenal.
yeah.
It's phenomenal. And the Chinese people, I just fell in love with them.
Mm.
Just loved it. I'd love to go back.
Would you?
Yes.
Actually, it's interesting because I know you talked about the difference between Beijing and Shanghai, but Beijing would have been a much more regimented place to walk because it's all on the grid system. It's like New York, uptown New York, because it's, you know, it's all
I didn't realize that.
parallel, what's the word, squares, blocks, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas Shanghai didn't develop like that. So Shanghai's all over the place, isn't it?
Well, see, I just looked at this. I just Googled the skyline, and Shanghai was a prettier skyline. So it's a crazy way to choose where you're going to vacation. But
Oh, I think that's lovely. I really like that. I think that's brilliant. Yeah. So tell me about walking Shanghai. What did you like most about Shanghai?
well, everything was so different. I didn't know the alphabet. There were no English signs anywhere like there is in the rest of the world. The food was different. The children came and danced in the parks in the early evening. The music that was outside. But it was funny because when I landed in Shanghai, a real good friend of mine who had been teaching in another city flew in, and we stayed in a hotel for 2 nights. She had to go back home, and I checked into my Airbnb. Well, walking from the hotel, I was in the French Connection. French.
Commission, isn't it? What is it called? The French?
You know where I'm talking
I
about.
know exactly what you mean. Yeah, Southwest.
So I'm walking from the hotel to the address I have for my Airbnb. And as you know, in Shanghai, all the city blocks are bordered by the shops. And you go through those shops, and the neighborhood is hidden back in the back. So I have to go through this alleyway, and there are wires hanging down, and there's clotheslines everywhere, and women out chopping up their fish and garbage cans out. And I'm like, holy, let me go back to this hotel. I was really scared.
Yeah.
And I thought, no, suck it up. You got to do this. So I go around several little alleyways and come to the little black box with the keypad on it, and I punch in my code. The door opens. I go up 3 stories and open that door, and it's a little IKEA apartment. It's teeny, but it's so cute and so bright. So IKEA plastic. Everything was really cute, and so I got in there and I thought, okay, shut the door. I'm safe. I'm safe in here. Nobody can get me now that I'm in here, because it really was so different. I mean, it looked like a slum, to most of us. And so I looked out the window, and there was the clotheslines with some woman's underwear hanging. I mean, it was just so different. And then all of a sudden I heard a little bicycle with a little horn, and I looked down, and it was a little guy selling, toilet paper, selling whatever he was selling in the neighborhood. And then I heard some singing, and I learned the next day that there was a little choir that met in one of the little things. And I got to see how a real neighborhood was. And I just loved it. And I thought, if I'd have gone back to that hotel, I would have missed this entire experience. Their apartments were so teeny that their kitchen was, 2 people couldn't have stood in the kitchen. So they come out and they have outdoor sinks where they wash the fish, and all the ladies are lined up just chatting away in the morning, making their soups and washing their clothes and hanging them up outside. It was amazing. For me to see that slice of life was just amazing. Then I went to a huge market in Shanghai. I saw a 6-story building that warehouses all those things that they make, tassels and clocks, and the working conditions were just, all I could think of is, if anybody drops a match, how many people are going to die in this? This warehouse and all this stuff is just going to go up like that. But I learned how, people put their laundry outside to dry in the sun, and how just all those little things that are so, so different from the way I do it in America and the way you do it probably.
Mm.
That's the kind of stuff I just love. And I saw, like in America, it's the mothers that take the kids to kindergarten or to school. I watched as the dads all pulled up on their scooters to take the kids. I don't know. It's the little slices of life that bring me so much joy, that make me understand other cultures and other religions and that's the part that I love the most. That's the part I love the most.
Well, Lisa, I really have to commend you because you're very unusual, and that you're willing first to go to these places. You're willing to go alone,
Yeah.
and you're willing to get out of the hotels and go and live, in a community, which is what I love to do, but don't always get to do. You're very unusual. So good for you.
Well, that's why people don't want to travel with me, probably, because it's nuts. But that's the part I love the most. The little place we had in Istanbul. Oh, we got to Istanbul. My sister and I and daughter and son got there, and they took off to see some of the, local, some of the things that you see in Istanbul. And it was during Ramadan. So when all the prayers were announced, I went out through the streets and watched people, sit down and kneel and pray. And they fasted all day. And I could see the merchants in the morning hawking their wares. And at about 2:00, they hadn't eaten all day and they were tired. And then at night they feasted. They would come out to the lawns in front of the mosque, and the whole family would feast and have picnics and cook like in barbecue grills. I could just do that all the time. I know that's crazy. That's the part I could just do all the time.
But can you imagine, Lisa, if everybody had that opportunity or had that knowledge, the world would be a very different place, wouldn't it?
It would be very different, and I think people would be shocked at how similar we all are.
Mm-hmm.
Like in Istanbul, it was during Ramadan. They had men up there roasting corn like we do on 4th of July. Mm-hmm. They had the blood donor mobile, people trying to get people to donate blood just like we do in America. They had picnics on the grounds like we do in America. I mean, mm-hmm. They worship their faith just like, a little bit different ways than we do, but we're so similar. I wish everybody had that experience, because it's hard to come back and hear somebody make fun of this group or this group when their blood is just as blue as mine.
Yeah, people are just people after all, aren't they?
They are, and they care about their kids, and they care about their safety, and we're all the same.
So have there been any problems that you've encountered while you've been on your walks? Have you had any narrow escapes apart from being a bit scared as you walk down an alleyway to get to your Airbnb?
There've only been 2 times, I think, that I've been really scared. Once was in Paris, and I was at the ATM trying to get money out of the machine. And 3 little school girls, about 11 or 12 years old, in school uniforms, rushed me trying to get my money. And I had heard that would happen. So when I looked at them, I thought, they're cute little girls, and they came too close, and I knew what they were trying to do. So I just took my arm, and I didn't hit them, but I pushed them away, and they kept pushing. Finally got them away, got my money, and that was the only thing that scared me. Not that I was getting a lot of money out, but it was my card and my purse and all this and everything.
It's shocking that they were schoolgirls, isn't it? That's really shocking.
Yeah. And then on one of my walks in New York, I had worked most of the day inside and gotten out late. And I was over there by the Con Edison plant on the Lower East Side, no people around, and the sun started coming down quickly. When you go under the Brooklyn Bridge, it's like going over, it's either 4 lanes or 6 lanes, and it's pretty fast traffic, and I couldn't find any way, and it was dark, and I couldn't find a way to safely get over there. But I had to get over that way. I had to get over there. So, I'm dashing to the middle aisle and then begin to dash, and here comes a car. It didn't come so close, but I felt like I almost saw stars. But
Oh my
really,
goodness.
those were only 2 times. I was in, I was on the upper west side of Manhattan, and it was hot. It was July, and I could feel my face just beating with heat, and I couldn't find any place to get water, and I felt like I was dehydrated. I was getting ready to faint. I really did. And I came up to this little Hispanic man who had a fruit stand, and he called his son over to help me. And
Oh,
and so that kind of spooked me a little bit, but no, nothing really bad. In Shanghai, I wanted to go to a concert at night, and I was a little hesitant to go out at night. But, I said, go for it. If something happens to me, I've lived a good life. So I go out to the concert at dusk, and when it's over, it's pitch black, and everybody was out. So that was, no worry. I shouldn't have even worried about that.
yeah.
So no, I really haven't. There's some times that I feel, don't go any further, Lisa, it could be dangerous. So I'm not stupid.
Yes.
But I probably push it a little further sometimes than I should. So
Yeah, but you've been all right doing that. It's good. I think going outside the comfort zone is very much to be recommended. Tell me, what do you wear on your feet? What's your favorite walking footwear?
They're the ugliest black shoes you've ever seen. They're made by Merrill. And they're like tennis shoes, but they zip up the front.
Oh.
I'm on my 3rd pair. They're great. So
Merrill. They're a Merrill style.
Merrill.
They make good walking shoes, don't they?
Yeah, but hang on one sec. I want to show you something. I forgot about these and found them this morning. These are the shoes that I used to walk New York before I had my Merrills.
They do not look like good walking shoes.
They weren't.
Oh my goodness, no. Lisa is showing me a pair of moccasins with an almost non-existent sole.
Yeah.
I was like, you were pounding the concrete in those, weren't you?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but those Merrills are great. I'm on my 3rd pair.
Yeah. Yeah, and it makes all the difference when you've got the good right footwear, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I take another pair for if I'm going to a concert or if I'm going to, to a mass or a restaurant or something. I'll take something that looks a little bit nicer. But, nobody knows me over there, so they're not going to care what my shoes look like.
And nobody's going to look at your feet anyway. Only you are going to be conscious of what's on your feet. Wow. So what has this experience taught you about yourself?
It's taught me that I'm curious. I've always said in my journaling that I had an unsettled spirit and that I wish I could be happy with what I have. I see so many people that are so content with life as they have it. So I've always written about this unsettled spirit. And a real dear friend of mine told me one time, she said, that spirit's called curiosity. Embrace it, don't fight it. So I have found that I am insanely curious, and it's okay to be that way. I grew up in Mobile, Alabama, Southern Christian girl, white, very much conservative. Here are the boxes. I was supposed to go to college and come home and marry the doctor, the lawyer, start having babies, maybe have a year or 2 career, but not really, and all that. So that's the way I grew up. I've learned about myself that I no longer have boundaries and that I can believe whatever I want to believe. I can write whatever I want, and my voice is valuable, to maybe help somebody else. So that's a long-winded thing to say, but that's what came to mind.
That's perfect. Absolutely perfect. So you're bringing everything together into a book, is that right? You're creating a book of all your stories?
Well, I went to New York 10 years ago when I was 58. I learned that I enjoyed writing, but I really had never been a reader nor a writer. So I hired a tutor, a writing tutor, about 5 or 6 years ago to work with me. And she worked with me for about 4 years. And I finally put all these stories together, the books about New York. I delved into my background, into our generation of women and all that we have faced during our generation. I think I have one more edit and then I will start looking for agents. So if you know an agent, this is a new reinvention, I guess, my third act. This one's been difficult because I look at all the good writers out there and they're just amazing and I want to be just that good. So I'm having to come to peace with myself, not having been a big reader and not being a writer until just recently. I need to let my story go at some point. It's never going to be perfect. So I'm within weeks of that, and I'm a nervous wreck. I divulge a lot. I slice myself open and bleed, as they say about writing a memoir. So anyway, yes.
Well, I can't wait to read it. I think it's going to be fascinating because you've got some great stories to tell, haven't you?
Yeah, I do. I do.
So what advice do you have for a woman in midlife and beyond who's feeling rather stuck and in need of an adventure?
I would say first, name your goal or name your dream, because I know we all have dreams and we all have goals, especially when the children leave, especially when our careers wind down. I think we women have suppressed our dreams for a long time. And so name your goal and name your dream. Buy a journal and put that dream on page 1, big, in a big magic marker. And then turn the page and start making a list of what all the things you need to do to make it happen. Do you need to make a budget? Do you need to buy an airline ticket? Do you need to work 3 more months until you can retire? Do you need to work temp jobs to be able to afford it? Whatever. Just start making a list of what your to-dos are in order to make that dream come true. I did it. I made a big list. Obviously, I couldn't afford to take this trip, so I didn't really know how I was going to make it happen. I made a little list, and the second thing I would do is I would announce it. Get on social media and announce it, because you need accountability partners. If I didn't have that one person say what was plan B, I would have never done this. I'll be honest with you. I would have never done it because I should stay home and earn money and, do all that. So get accountability partners and then help others let you meet your goals. I had the most, and I cry when I think about this every time. My girlfriends knew what was happening to me, that I was losing my home, that I was going to go through a divorce. My children were all gone. And they had a send-away party for me to go to New York. And they all gave me gift cards for places to eat, because I really wasn't sure how I was going to feed myself. I went up there with that little money. Now, that was a big risk. But I later learned that I got my deposit back from the class, and that helped me get through the month. But they gave me gift cards to Starbucks where I could go recharge my phone. They gave me gift cards to McDonald's, to some of the grocery stores up there. So ask people to help, because, we all like to help somebody find their dreams.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Magnificent Midlife Podcast. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, share it, and leave me a review wherever you're listening. It really helps me get the message out. You can find out more information about this episode in the show notes at magnificentmidlife.com. That's also where you'll find strategies, support, and resources to help make your midlife magnificent. Get clarity on how to make the most of your next chapter. Help me change the world, one magnificent midlife woman at a time.